Okay. Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our webinar on developing a whole school approach to literacy, where we're going to talk about leveraging PETA's resources. My name is Rachael Hill. I'm Head of Professional Learning with PETAA, and my background has been in schools, in leadership, and then in system advisory roles in literacy. I was also a passionate teacher librarian, and my interests are in quality professional learning and the implementation of change processes in schools that build capacity. So this afternoon's presentation will draw on some of that. Before we begin, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land I'm on today. I'm coming from Brisbane, so it's the Turrbal people of the North Brisbane area. I pay respects to their elders past and present. I also want to extend that respect to the traditional custodians of the lands across Australia from where you may be joining us from, their histories, lands, cultures, and stories. So in our session this afternoon, we're quite excited to offer this to you. Our focus is going to be around whole school approaches where we align staff in their knowledge and understanding of literacy practices. But importantly, what we'd like to share with you is how PETA's resources can support this vital work. So as a school curriculum leader previously, I really understand the time that it takes to plan for and structure quality professional learning. And then in my work as a system advisor, I know the support that's required when you are implementing whole school approaches. So today, through sharing an example of a school with a writing focus, and then also sharing with you how to engage in our professional learning subscription, I hope you can see how PETA can support your work in this way. So let's just start getting some clarity together with what a whole school approach is. So when you look at any model of implementation, clarity always features as an essential element for successful impact. And we usually talk about clarity in terms of teacher knowledge and practice, but I also think we need to talk about clarity in the benefit to staff wellbeing and the self-efficacy of teachers. It's a real kindness that builds a safe environment where teachers feel they can learn, take risks, collaborate and grow. And we want to reflect upon our current state so we understand what our school context is at the moment and then begin to lead that change with clarity. I think that John Hattie really speaks to this clarity when he talks about variability, and that within school variability has been shown to be a great barrier to improvement. And interestingly, the research would show that we are more likely to have school within school variability than we are between schools. So it really highlights the importance for that work that we do where we're trying to build consistency and develop a whole school approach to any area of learning. And in this case, this afternoon, as we talk about literacy. So the sorts of things that underpin whole school approaches, if we look at current research and papers that have been put out around whole school approaches, recently as Aero produced a paper on behaviour and writing, it used the language of shared understanding of what excellent practice looks like and a shared understanding of content knowledge. The Grattan Institute, when they released their research on reducing variance for learning and equity for our students, really spoke about that consistency in both understanding and action again. And that clarity of curriculum was really important for the intent of the curriculum and to ensure that there are not gaps for our learners that will be critical to their learning. So in developing that whole school approach, what we really want to focus on and what we'll discuss PETA's resources with for this afternoon is that notion of consistent language, how we can have improved teacher efficacy and well-being, and what we want to see is student success in a sequence curriculum that's taught through effective practices. It's always important to think around what something isn't as well, and there's a lot of conversation around whole school approaches and teaching approaches, but it's important in recognising the professionalism of staff that we realise that consistency doesn't necessarily mean conformity. And so what we want to do is support teachers in the knowledge and understanding that they are gaining so that they can flexibly respond to learners with the right strategy at the right time. So it's not conformity to a rigid set of rules, but rather a shared understanding. So I spoke about that clarity that we want for our current context so that we can determine what the next best steps are in terms of some professional learning for our staff. And there's a process for evaluation that we can use. This afternoon, we're not going to go through that, but what I'd like to share with you is that if you were interested in sitting with your leadership team and having a look at how you may examine your current context, at our recent conference, we led a session on scoping and leading improvement cycles, and you could view that workshop and analyse your own context by viewing the workshop. What we're also really excited to let our members know is that in 2026, we have a focus on leaders coming. And so our leadership toolkit, we're getting that together and starting to develop that, where we hope to support leaders in our school with a whole school focus, with planning for professional learning and also monitoring impact. We've already had one focus group with face-to-face PL opportunities, and we hope to do that again, where leadership teams are able to come along and where we will guide you through a process to map your whole school focus and talk about implementation. So that's a really exciting move coming to PETAA in 2026, and we look forward to sharing that with you. So for this afternoon, we want to be really practical and just connect your needs to what PETAA offers. So we exist to support our members, so understanding your needs is central to our work. So in this next part, we're going to explore online what a PL subscription membership offers a school and show you the way that we can really support the work in your school around literacy. So our aim is to really understand where you are and where you want to be and how PETAA can help you get there. So many of you may already be members, and so you already enjoy things like the curriculum units, these webinars, our PETAA papers and publications that we have twice annually, as well as some of the recordings that are available. The PL subscription really elevates the offerings of PETAA and connects all of that in a really bespoke way. So it combines that traditional membership with over 70 online courses. You have a dedicated account manager, and you get those digital resources, papers and copies of books. But what you will have access to for all of your staff are the courses and the on-demand access to our annual conference. And so this afternoon, I'd like to show how using the courses and the conference could really elevate the professional learning in your school and build some consistency and clarity across a number of areas. So to do that this afternoon, I'm going to share the context of a school that wanted to improve writing, and when they examined their current context, this is what they discovered. So in looking at the attitudes and beliefs, the school had examined the current writing of students and realised that grammar and sentence structure were areas that needed some further support for student growth, and then looked at where their teachers were at in terms of being able to deliver that learning in a really with really effective practice. So what we ascertained was that teachers were a bit uncertain about their own grammar knowledge. They were highly engaged in PL, but probably had really varied beliefs about how you can teach grammar in context. So we knew that that was some work we needed to do, and we gathered teacher voice. In terms of teachers' knowledge and understanding, their strengths were that they were very confident to teach structure, but not familiar with a functional language approach to grammar, and were probably not using mentor text to connect reading and writing to the extent that they could. In terms of structures and processes, the leadership team really wanted to connect planning time to actions they wanted to see from professional learning. So they wanted this professional learning to really have impact in the classroom. And they were prepared to look at timetabling so that they could model practice and have peer visits. We really focused on what changes we wanted to see in the classroom. And so those changes were around that staff would use mentor texts, that we would hear the language of functional language when teachers were unpacking grammar with students, and that we could really encourage our teachers to be writers in the classroom with modelling and think of louds. The outcomes that we hope to get from this work was improved writing, but we were going to examine that writing from the main view of sentence structure and grammar through pre and post student work samples, and we would also use some external testing such as NAPLAN. So when we examined that current context, we could suggest to a school that your way through developing that work across a year for teachers might be in these stages, where we'll gather teacher voice and understanding to ensure we have the current context. And then we're going to begin by really building that knowledge of grammar and sentence structure within writing. So really develop a teacher's pedagogical content knowledge here, explore the use of mentor texts, and then really see our teachers as writers in classrooms modelling writing and practicing joint construction. So they were the big aims of the year of our work. So what we're going to do this afternoon is go live and see how we can elevate the professional learning opportunity through using the subscription online. So I'm going to end our slideshow here for a brief moment, and I'm going to take you online. So can you let me know that you can see my screen, Eileen?
Yes, I can.
Great. Okay, so we're here on a PETAA homepage, and you'll see at the moment that I'm logged up in as our test sample up here. And there's a member portal. So when I log in, the very first thing I want to do is ensure I'm in the member portal so that my login has been registered. So many of the things that you would usually look for exist here in the resources and units, and also in the Teaching English, where we have our position statements, and that's what's available to everyone on their membership. But this afternoon, I'm really going to talk around this tab here on professional learning, and we're going to have a look at what online learning, what sort of courses we have on offer. If you were a PL member, you would be able to subscribe and link straight into here. But for this afternoon, I'm going to pop onto all courses so we can see what it looks like as you might explore it. So you'll see here that at the moment we have all of the courses on offer. One of our new edits to our the features of this page is that we've started to place those books from which courses are really strongly linked or have been developed, so that you can visually see how some courses are connected. For this afternoon, I'm going to go up here and select online learning. And we've just seen that in the school that we're trying to support, it's really about grammar and mentor and model text. So I'm going to click first of all here into the grammar button. And what I can see here are some of the courses that are being suggested for a grammar focus. And as the leader of learning in the school, what I would do is I'd pop in and out of some of these and see what's most going to meet the needs of my teachers. I've already done that, and so I'm going to suggest that this early course here that's only 1.5 hours will be a really great starting point. And then I'm going to open up this teaching grammar using mentor text and show you what that looks like. So we're just aiming here to show you the interactivity of our courses and how they connect to all of our other learning. So I'm going to open up this starter course here, which is on teaching grammar and vocabulary. And you'll see here as a PL sub-member, I can access the course right here. Now, when we access the course here, you'll see, just clear that, it links to suggested readings. So it will let you know as well what books may be of support here, and we enter the course. Now, this is just a 1.5 hour course. So when we look to the side here, it's where we'll see how many modules are in the course. And we notice here that there's just the one module. But what you'll see as a leader of learning in your school is that the learning outcomes are clearly addressed, curriculum links. And this particular course I chose because it's a very simple and easy introduction into some of the language that we'd like to ensure we have a consistent understanding around in grammar. So a very simple way of seeing where staff are at and bringing perhaps some early career teachers or some teachers new to functional grammar up to speed and developing that consistent language. So we can see here really simple explanations, but we get already this great interactivity. So in this particular one, in talking around literary devices, you can see that there's a great deal of information here for teachers to tap in and out of those areas that they need to clarify. And we also include reflection questions, which can be used when someone's doing the course on their own, or if you're doing it as a staff or in a small group, they can be really wonderful discussion questions that we've already curated for you. You'll find where possible, we also link videos, so there's some different interactivity in the learning. And we put in place some really small knowledge checks. Always easy to answer, but just as a little check before moving on to other examples. So as a really great entry point, something like one of our 1.5 hour courses is a really great starting point. So you'll notice back here, that was that course. But over here, I'd had a look and really wanted to explore grammar in some more detail and start to make that connection with mentor texts. So let's have a look at this course here. And you can see, because I was logged in as a member, I'm not having to log in each time. I'm accessing the link through the PL sub link, which is just here. Now, this course length is 3 hours. And if I start this course, I would have 365 days to complete it. Again, we can see the books that it's linked to, and I'm going to enter the course here. Let's just go back and enter that once more because it's popped up behind. Here we go. Now, in this course, when it immediately comes up, we're going to see, being a 3 hour course, that there are several modules to this course. Let's have a look here as the content loads. So what we see here is that over at the side, there are, in fact, there's an introduction and 3 modules. So if all staff, or if a particular teacher was needing all 3 of these modules, then they would work through all of those. We might have a situation where staff have perhaps been working through 1 or 2 modules on their own, and then we're coming together as a group to perhaps do one of the modules together. So this particular one here is much more in depth. So we have the introduction. And what I really like here is we've put those reflective questions in, and around something like grammar, we're giving teachers an opportunity to talk about where they are currently at, and also what their experience may have been at school or at university when they were being introduced to grammar. Module 1 really shows how what we try to do is build teacher knowledge, so really define the what and the why, and then we move through to practical examples around the how do we go about that. So here in these first modules, we're really in that what and why it's important. And you'll see the interactivity, again, of our courses, that they are laid out, really structured well in terms of navigating visually your way through. And here, this presents a timeline of grammar change in teaching. And then we move into that functional language. And here you'll see that we can watch a video on Halliday's functional language approach. So again, a variety of reading, of viewing, and allowing for discussion. There's that simple knowledge check, and then we move through further into some more complex notions of grammar. In Module 2, you'll see it looks at grammar in the curriculum. So really trying to place that in the context of both the Australian curriculum, Victoria and New South Wales by toggling through those different screens, mentioning EALD learners. And then you'll see we continue that background knowledge that teachers really need. What I like is that included with this, we link you to some of the other professional reading. So we're not asking you to go and find that on other pages of the website. The course will link all of that for you. So things like PETAA papers or PDF documents that help go through a chapter in one of our texts, they're all linked there. And what we also notice among many of our courses, which I think gives real consistency to the language and to the thinking that we're wanting to do with our staff, is that it's linked to that teaching and learning cycle where we connect reading and writing. So there's that familiarity with this cycle within many of our courses. And finally, if we were to look to chapter 3, module 3, sorry, what we see here is where we now take this to the and how does that look in classroom application? What is it that you would do? And we draw here very much on texts that are part of our units or texts that have been used in some of our publications. So here is a really wonderful example of how teachers can have a look and explore a text and almost have like that professional knowledge guide sitting on their shoulder, talking them through what that would look like to find these things in a text and work through those with students in a class. So that deconstruction, moving to independent construction. And we give options. So that first one was for an early years, looking at an early years text. And then here we've got the ugly Encyclopedia of Ugly Animals. So a nonfiction text this time for a year level that's a little bit older. So really then teachers would be able to go back to our units, have a look and see how the teaching in that unit was developed and what would the grammar teaching look like now with that new professional knowledge that they have through the courses, that shared language that you're all using and want to see using in your classrooms. And we've been able to do that through the professional learning here. I'm going to take you back and just briefly show you one more. And that would be just to point out that sometimes we need to go in and out of some of the search terms. It only allows us to tag our courses with one search term. And of course, literacy is so interrelated, it often cuts across many. So this course here, which is based on Teaching with Intent 2, is a really new and powerful course that we have offered at PETAA. I absolutely love this course because I think what it does, it coaches our teachers in a really scaffolded way to be able to use questioning around writing and around grammar in their classrooms. And very briefly, I will just open up the course here and let you see. So this is based on Helen Harper's work with Teaching with Intent 2. And we've used the text examples that are in Teaching with Intent 2 and unpacked those. What I really like here is that questioning is really supported, and we know that the quality of questioning in our classroom really affects the learning. So there's an introduction to what questioning is in this course, which is wonderful. And I think that this course is a really great example for all of the different types of interactivity that we offer in the courses. So you'll see here again the teaching and learning cycle, but the way that that cycle is really linked to providing support at the moment that teachers are doing the course without having to go to any other resources or places. Again, those links to further reading and knowledge checks around the teaching and learning cycle. Here we find questioning is really unpacked, and I'm going to go to that module 2 to really show you how supported some of our professional learning courses are online. So this is to support our teachers using questioning to support writing in the classroom, having used it for reading. I love here there's a way of teachers working their way through our course depending on the year level perhaps that they're teaching, so an early years text and an older text. And then when I select that text, I can go for a level of scaffolding that is high support for learners that really need that detailed scaffolding, or low support. And the questioning that is used here reflects that sort of scaffolding that's required. So I think it's quite amazing here that we can work through, and a teacher almost has that little professional voice there, assisting them with the sorts of questions that will guide our students to be able to do this in their writing, so they can follow through. They can see where we're scaffolding, where we're handing over thinking, and when we're moving the students on so that they can do that in their own writing. We link things like joint construction so that that learning can happen right there at the moment that it's relevant in the course. And this is a fabulous video of Joe Rossbridge sharing some joint construction in a classroom. And again, that reflection that really allows discussion. So you can see here that we've really been able to use the professional learning offerings to scope our way through some courses that might work for some staff or all staff. And I think the final offering that is worth having a look at here is that the on-demand conference comes with the professional learning subscription. So given that the most recent conference was on writing, I can access that here. And sometimes when we're talking to curriculum leaders in schools, they need the sort of input that is 30 minutes or 45 minutes at that 50-minute mark that will go with a staff meeting. So some really high quality input that's going to allow discussion, reading, reflection. And so I'd like to show you the way we've put together the conference, which is much more than just a collection of videos. So here you have a full professional learning journey, and just going to show you here in terms of the word knowledge, vocabulary, handwriting. So if you wanted to focus on vocabulary or word knowledge to go with your writing, you could choose that one. Or we can go down here where I see there's actually some work on mentor texts, and I'm going to open that one up so that I can explore the Joe Rossbridge presentation, which was on grammar. And I've got some backup work here on mentor texts that Amanda Sotera did, and a wonderful session here from Karen Rogers, who looks at writing across the curriculum and how you get some consistency across the school. So you'll see here that we get some professional reading before we look at the courses. We have the actual recording, which in this case is around a 25-30-minute recording, and then some takeaways. So for this particular one, I could go down and I could use the grammar in context for mentor texts, watch the Joe Rossbridge presentation, talk about the key takeaways together, and then it links me here to courses and templates and other resources that could be really valuable in that professional learning. So I'm going to stop sharing there and move back into here. So you can see there's just such a range of ways that that professional learning can really work for you as you go to lead whole school improvement in your school. And it allows you to do, I think, the work of the critical thinking and the conversations with your staff without having to prepare all of the professional learning, yet knowing that this has come from a rich evidence-based, it's come from publications and experts in the field. So we know that we're putting in front of our staff the latest research and some really high quality learning. So whilst I showed writing, you could have a spelling focus and follow a similar journey through using our position statements, our quality publications, our units, the online courses, and the on-demand conference. Really rich work around spelling. Equally, you could have a reading focus and you would narrow that reading focus down to perhaps in this instance, speaking to a school recently who wanted some help with what are the texts that we select for the teaching of reading. So it's a great narrow focus to do some work with your staff on. There's PETAA papers that would be really highly beneficial. And then there's online courses such as Timothy Shanahan's Science of Reading and supporting early reading with decodables and with other texts. So we can see here that really any topic of literacy, we have a wide range of support that you could gather together in a really bespoke offering for your staff that we are only too happy to help you do with some professional learning subscription support. So in your context, I guess it's the so what now what. So what are your takeaways from today? What have you learned? What might be helpful for your school situation? And what are your next steps in terms of professional learning? So in terms of those next steps, know that we're here as members. We love to have you reach out to us and have these conversations. So either myself at that email or Eileen as Head of Membership and Operations at the email there are happy to talk through any of those offerings with you and even just to explore the course offerings a little bit further. And we'd be happy to show you some that you can have a little bit of a play around as a sample in the background. So our PL subscription starts from $1,000. It's based on school size. It includes your current school membership, and we really look forward to you contacting us and talking about how we can help support you as a leadership team in your whole school improvement. So we appreciate the time you gave either to join us today or to watch this webinar a little bit later. Hopefully it's bite-sized enough at just over 35 minutes that you'll get to watch this and see how we can support you, and then you'll reach out to us. So thanks very much for your time this afternoon, and we'll speak or see you soon. Thank you.